Oh, hey, fellow artists. It is Roz here. Today's conversation is one you're going to want to lean in for because my guest made a huge leap this year, one that many artists dream about, but few talk about honestly. And just when she was finding her feet in this new chapter, something unexpected happened. Something involving a major national retailer, ethics, power imbalance, and what it really means to protect your creative voice. We're going to unpack all of that and the joy, the color, the nostalgia, and the bold storytelling behind her work. It's a big chat and a really important one. This is episode 107 of the Paint, Rest, Repeat podcast, which means you can find all the relevant links and the show notes over at permissiontopaint.co/podcast 107. Welcome to Paint, Rest, Repeat, the podcast for artists who are ready to ditch the overwhelm, follow their passion, and build a thriving art life on their own terms. I'm Roz, an Aussie artist, mum of two, and creative business coach who knows exactly how wild, wonderful, and wobbly the artist journey can be, because I've lived it. I left behind a safe teaching career to follow my heart into art, and now my work hangs in galleries and major art fairs across Australia. After years of coaching, I'm passionate about helping you ditch the starving artist myth, stick it to the naysayers, and design a creative life that truly lights you up. So if you're ready for real talk, practical tips, and heartfelt encouragement, you found your podcast. Hit follow and let's dive in. Sophie Corks is a contemporary artist from Orange, New South Wales, whose work captures the charm, humour and everyday magic of regional Australia life. She grew up on a farm in Barawa, played state-level cricket in Wagga and later lived in Sydney, Paris and Brighton, all experiences that now shape her bold, nostalgic and joy-filled paintings. Her work often explores motherhood, home, colour and the culture of cricket, from buzzing SCG crowds to golden arvo matches in the country. She's exhibited widely across Australia, shown at the affordable art fairs, been a finalist in multiple prizes, and her 2023 show, Town and Country, sold out on opening weekend. I am so excited to dive into her story and her creative world. Now, Sophie, for our listeners who might not have come across you before, can you let them know a little bit about who you are, where you're based, your art, just a general sort of a setting the scene sort of a combo?
Yeah, sure. So, I'm based in Orange in central west New South Wales. And I would say I'm an urban landscape painter. Colour for me is the way I express emotion in a scene. But of course, I really just paint what surrounds me and what excites me and what I'm passionate about. So quite often it can change, as you might see behind me if you're watching on YouTube. But yeah, generally if it's springtime in Orange, I'll suddenly be painting wisteria and magnolias. In maternity leave, when I'm home in the backyard with my kids all the time, I started painting the backyard as well. But also I love architecture and where design different eras are, especially this in Australia, with our balustrades or our awnings or, even just certain colours of certain periods. So it's, I kind of just, lots of nostalgia, I suppose, as well. Yeah.
I love all the references in your work. It's really intriguing. It's eye-catching, from a distance and all of that jazz. But when you come up nice and close, there's all these beautiful things to discover. And nostalgic, that's a really good word choice for your work. And it just beautiful. Very, very Australian, quintessentially Australian, I suppose. Maybe that's another little description.
Oh, yeah, I do. I get that a lot. I suppose with from some of my scenes, you can tell that I'm a female artist with colour palette. I maybe I'm being a little bit stereotypical there, but with regards to what I use, motherhood certainly influences me a lot in my creativity, of course. So I think, yes, I love to paint Australian scenes, but it's a certain colour palette that kind of you might be able to know if it's a piece of mine.
Yeah, 100%. That comes through, definitely. When did you sort of, I suppose, start taking your art a bit more seriously? Not full time, but just seriously. When did that happen for you?
I was born with a cricket bat in my hand, not a paintbrush. But that I grew up in Wagga, so it's just in the water there. And then I hurt my shoulder when I was 16. I was obsessed. Like, I was playing like crazy and, ADHD, hyperfocus. And then I went on a school trip. I'm very lucky, to Italy, and I was given some watercolours, and I went to Cinque Terre, and the buildings, all the colourful buildings are just incredible. So then I just started sketching in my sketchbook all the time, just drawing all the time. I actually had to choose art in year 11 and 12 based on my lines. I didn't actually want to do it in year 9 and 10. And then, of course, I found that actually this is kind of cool. But yeah, no, I didn't go to art school. It wasn't always a thing for me. It was just a hobby until probably around 2018. And this is when I was still doing the pen and ink drawing, that style of work. I started selling you kind of just watercolor and ink drawings, and I did a few wine labels, which was really fun. And it was a quirky illustrative kind of style. And then when I was living in Redfern, I became obsessed with all the terrace houses just in surround, so I just constantly draw. When I had Olive, my oldest, that I always wanted to become a full-time artist. It was actually quite a big job, but it was a great job. But I think once I became a mum, I just realised I just think this was just me. That's when I really started to push. So I was already selling stuff, and I'd had a website by 2020 and all of those kind of things. But yeah, that's when, becoming a mum, I suppose it was when I really pushed. I was like, okay, I really want to try to do this. It's going to take time to become a full-time artist because I have to rely on my income to pay our way. And I switched from watercolour ink to acrylic. But also I think one of the biggest things for me was actually moving to Orange. Moving regionally, for me, I was embraced into a creative community because they got a huge amount of artists, and it's a huge creative community for a regional town as well. But also there's some amazing galleries. So the Corner Store Gallery picked me up, and that gallery is epic. And then, I got into the Jumbled Art Superstar finalist, and it just went a bit nuts from there. So
so amazing, Sophie. So much of what you're saying is really interesting. That piece around motherhood, I think we change when we become parents, but also that time in our life, the universe almost delivers us this little opportunity to rethink what we're doing. So I think that will be really relatable for our listeners. And then talking about your move to Orange and the community that brought for you, that's amazing. And, again, I always harp on about community and that piece, but galleries as well. So when you say the Corner Store Gallery picked you up, did they find you and approach you, or how did that work?
Actually, this is a really good tip. So they've actually just opened the prize. So they have a prize every year in January. It's called the Inside This Box prize, and it's a small work piece. I think it's under 30 centimetres. I probably applied for it once before I hadn't gotten in. And then I started getting to know Maddie, the gallery director and owner. And after a while, she offered to me to part of the group, a small group show. And it's when I became part of the gallery stable. But I think sometimes the best way outside of, sending through your portfolio to a gallery or something like that is actually to apply for the art prizes within the galleries. And that's kind of how you often can get your foot in the door. I mean, that's how I've done it with both Jumbled and the Corner Store.
So, okay, you've had some great wins, an amazing journey so far. Motherhood gave you this little portal to decide what you wanted to do and all of that jazz. And this year you've gone full time as an artist. How has that gone for you?
Oh, it's a bloody roller coaster. So I will tell you one thing. My husband works at a bank and analyzes risk. So, and his ADHD creative life is slightly different. Anyway, so, look, I had to convince him, and I had to convince myself that I could do it. So essentially, before I really jumped ship, I booked in my commissions for the year. I've been actually doing commissions for quite a long time, but I've always had a pretty long wait list and I've never been able to fulfill all of the orders. And because I do specific houses and things like that, people ask me to do their grand's house that their grand might have passed away and those kind of things. So I do lots of amazing sentimental commissions like that. So I booked up my commissions for the year. So I kind of had an income booked in. I had a solo booked in. And then I was also offered to be a part of all of the affordable art fairs with Jumble. So while the solo and the affordable art fairs was not a definite income, it was kind of now or never to jump ship in that regard because I needed more time to paint to actually make the most of it. So, yeah, and of course it's been a year to jump ship. The economy's been pretty tough. The originals are definitely not as selling like they used to, but the prints have probably kept me going because people, I think they still really want to support us, and they can do that through some of our prints as well. Yeah, so that's been really interesting. I've learned a lot of lessons. I probably won't be doing another solo for a year or two at least, but you have to. It takes a long time to build a collection, and then if you're not making any money in that process, because of course I don't have time to do commissions because I'm doing paintings for my solo. So it's all of that, and I didn't have any new prints to launch, so there was kind of no passive income there. So that's kind of some of the things that where I will think about for next year. If I'm building a collection, is what am I going to do to ensure that some passive income happening in the background?
Yeah, definitely. That's sort of evergreen, I suppose, part of your business.
One of the other things is I've been really pushing towards the end of the year with regards to print sales and those kind of things, because I think if I can have like just a nice little wad to just help me in those quiet months, I think that should help me through next year. But also, if I need to get another job, I will. It's fine. My other job that I quit was a big role. Like it used all my strategy brain. I'm happy now that I get to use my strategy brain on my business, because sometimes you only have capacity for that, plus parent and all of the other things. But yeah, there's been a lot of lessons learned, but it's certainly been pretty epic year. I'm pretty tight though.
It is a lot being full-time in business and in art, but I think in your heart whether you're made for it or not, and whether you enjoy this version of life and this type of a job. And you know how you said to your husband, you had to convince him that you could do it. I mean, maybe instead of convincing someone that you can do it, it's just convincing them that you really, you're going to give it a red hot go sort of thing. You're going to give it a go and give it a whirl, because it sort of feels a little bit like now or never, we have one crack at this.
Exactly. And, I had a little bit of savings, and that's what I said to him as well. I said, I'm going to, if I can do this year, then let's keep going. And yeah, like I think I've been able to do this year, and then I've been able to put in my share for all of the bits and bobs for the mortgage and whatnot, and the daycare bills and everything. Otherwise, you just regret it if you don't. Yeah. You don't want to look back on life and resent anything. I found a studio right in the centre of town as well, opposite the pub. It's upstairs from a really cute restaurant in town, really funky little restaurant. And so now I'm kind of right in the centre of town. I'm out of the house. It's like, yeah, just another thing this town just keeps giving. So my friends own a winery out at Chalou Wines, and they had a granny flat where I just need a house sometimes, and I'd go spend weeks out there just painting every day, which I absolutely loved. And I think for me it was because I'd grown out of the spare bedroom. It was building a pod in the garden or space. And I didn't want to put a space under my own name because, rent and whatnot. We don't have any of those shared studios in Orange that you have in Sydney. So then every time I went for coffee, I basically just talked to everyone saying, hey, I'm looking for a studio if anyone's got a spare room. And then kind of people started booking. And yeah, someone told me that upstairs of the chairs was free. Then I heard that upstairs of like the main street, there's so many empty spots. So once they kind of get the DAs approved for this to make this a rental, then I'm sure I'll find something else.
So good, Sophie. Over the last couple of months, you've been dealing with a little bit of I suppose, a conflict with a major retailer. Do you want to let our listeners know a little bit about that and what's been going on that front? It's a really interesting topic from, I guess a philosophical but also ethical point of view.
Yeah, sure. So a few months ago, one of my collectors alerted me to an image on the Adairs website. They were selling canvas prints of a painting that looked like my work. So it had all the same elements. It actually looked like my home backyard that I paint. So the artwork was different enough in terms of they'd used a different color palette. And yeah, there was quite a few points of difference, of course. But if you kind of just looked at it quickly, it looked like my work. And it kind of took on a little bit of that signature style, I suppose. And so I was pretty shocked, but to be honest, I thought it was funny. I thought, because I suppose I've been painting in my little world for so long, and you see all these trends that happen in art, and then I thought, is my work finally fashionable? Yeah. But then, pretty much that lasted a day of the funniness, and then I was actually like, no, this has been a pretty tough year. I don't license my work to licensing platforms. All of my prints are limited edition. They're all really amazing quality. I do that to keep the value of my originals. And now there's this mass-produced, pretty ugly version of my work, to be honest, that's my opinion, of course. Anyway, so yeah, I saw that, but then I had a website and I was like, oh, well, there was so many different artworks that looked similar to a lot of my other Insta artist friends as well. So, and then there's a lot that you just can't put your finger on who the artist is, because it feels like there's been a lot of inspiration from a few different artists. But then I saw, it was Carmo that got in touch with me, Melbourne artist, also jumbled artist. And she alerted me to mine, and I said, yeah, no, I know, I've seen it. And then she sent me the image that is quite similar to hers, and I was like, oh my gosh, it looks so similar. Like if you looked at it straight away, you'd think it was hers, and then you'd realise that you notice the details of which the artwork have been changed a little bit. And then so we didn't do anything for a little while, but then because we just thought, well, there's no copyright infringement. I don't think, because the artworks are different enough. I think it was a few weeks later we heard from, I read, there was an article in The Australian of the Adairs CEO complaining about the Chinese manufacturers, Temu and Shein, from replicating some of the Adairs design. And I was like, oh, okay. So while it's not the same, it's not like Adairs are not creating replicas, not creating copies, but they're close inspirations perhaps. So yeah, it's I thought, well, maybe there's a story here now, because it's not it might not be a legal issue. It could be a public conversation, and maybe a publication could put pressure on the company to get them to stop their ways, because we believed that it was a pattern of behaviour. When you look at the website and think about,
it's completely not okay what they've done. And I understand the difference between, the legal side of things, but there's also the ethical side. So this is, to me, definitely it's a story, but it's more than that. And I think this actually really needs to be shouted out about, so that Adairs firstly stops operating in this sort of a way, but then also other retailers either stop doing it or don't go near it, because it's not at all okay. I quite frankly, sorry, now you got me ranting. I quite frankly don't care if Adairs is having a hard time because of Temu, because now what they're doing is they're trying to profit off artists' creativity and ideas and concepts for their own gain. Sorry, that's not at all okay. It will never be okay. And actually, I'm really quite furious about this, Sophie. This is terrible.
Well, Temu do it to artists too. So it's like, well, we're independent artists without PR teams.
We could go and complain about Temu and then behave in exactly the same way. It's absolutely appalling. So anyway, so who else was involved? So it's your work, it's Carmo, and did you say, is it Jessica Watts as well?
Yeah, so I saw one of the budgies on the website that I'm like, I've seen this before. Who have I seen? And then I was trying to look, and then I did a Google reverse image look. And then I was like, Jessica Watt, I love her. Like, she does these amazing pretty boy budgies on like these concrete circular things. And Adairs had it was even on like a circular wooden panel with the budgie's head. So we got together and I said, I think we should write to Adairs. And that'd be a first point of call. So we wrote to them and we asked them about the artworks. We sent through our artworks and we sent photos of theirs that we thought were strikingly similar. And we asked them about their creative set. So how were their artworks created? Who created them? And what their ethical process is in creating their artworks, what their policies are in-house, whether they use independent artists as inspiration. And we asked them to remove the artworks from sale temporarily while they conducted the review. We heard back straight away from the CEO. It was actually quite a nice letter at first. She said, we will remove the artworks temporarily review. The next letter was not as friendly. And we heard from their risk team, who I think was probably their legal team. And it was essentially a bit of a warning for us to not talk about this publicly, because we initially said that we would always talk about it publicly. We thought it was an important discussion for the public to be out there. So, yeah, it was essentially a warning for us to not talk. So, yeah, they did confirm that the Adairs artist was aware of my work and had actually referenced my work in the internal design brief. And they, from what my understanding of the review is, the eye to create a photograph inspired by my work that the artist then used to create this. And then the other artworks, they said, were not copyright infringement, and they didn't provide a review of how those works were created. I went back and said, what are you based on using an artist as inspiration, an independent artist as inspiration for your design process? That's there was no credit or collaboration offered. Yeah, and they basically just wrote back, we haven't infringed on copyright, we're fine legally, and we're doing anything wrong with it. Ethically, this is enough.
How can they look in their heart and as humans, like, I don't know, this is the problem, I guess, with big business. And this is what you had mentioned actually prior to recording today, is the problem here is the power imbalance. That's the problem. And it's obviously far from right. But just that it does amaze me how real people who are part of the Adairs business can actually sleep at night, essentially, knowing that they are ripping off real people, real artists, independent artists who are trying to make money and income out of their passion, get paid to do and love. Like, whilst it's not legally copyright, it is copying. It is copying. I really do think.
Apparently, it is a version of plagiarism. Plagiarism is not illegal from a law sense of things. I think that's what I understood from the meeting I had with lawyers, because we did end up seeking legal advice after we got the emails, and of course that's how the process took time. So it is. It's the power dynamic that's right. A comment like that could have changed any of our lives, rather than even just some credit or something would have been great. But yeah, it does devalue work, in my opinion, because it's, putting work out there that looks like a cheap imitation.
It should be your decision whether or not you want to work with a particular brand as well, because that's your own branding, really, and your brand identity, reputation, all of that. And you should be allowed to make those decisions around your own art, obviously. And some artists would love to be working in collaboration with Adairs, but others don't. And that's fine. That should be our decision independently. And yeah, I'm just so appalled for you, Sophie. So where is this landed now? What's the current update?
Yeah, so our plan was always to try and make this a public conversation. So we didn't provide Adairs with any opportunity to work with us in that regard. So, yeah, we always said, let's make this public, because it is not a legal conversation. It's an ethical one. So we thought the only way to really do this was to talk about it publicly. So maybe this would put pressure on them to stop this behaviour that we believe that they do. So yeah, I pitched it to the Morning Herald, and that article went out, and I think it had 70 comments on the digital side. People were appalled, and I put a reel out on my Instagram just talking about the story, and the reach has been almost 25,000 views, over 300 shares, and that's all organic because Instagram doesn't push to new audiences when the reel is over 3 minutes, and so that's purely from people getting quite passionate about the topic. So many artists were so surprised. A lot of people were suspicious but surprised that they actually confirm an artist in a turtle brief. I think that was, whoa, okay, it's just not cool. So yeah, so that's where it's gone from there. For me, I'm just like, I'm going to talk about it a little bit, but of course I've kind of got to go on with my own business. But let's also, if it does happen, let's talk about it publicly, because I feel like maybe that's the only way to stop them from doing it, because they do know what they're doing legally, I think.
This is absolutely the purpose of our episode, our interview and our chat today, is to help to get the word out about this. So if you are listening, either share this episode on your own socials to try to get the word out. If you work with a media agency or know someone else who works for, a newspaper, something like that, feel free to reach out to Sophie as well to see if you can get the word out even more. Then we can clear the decks, fresh start for the new year, probably for you then, Sophie.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm off to France next Sunday, so I have to kind of finish the year and be done. So I have to see the French husband's family for Christmas and bring in a 2 and a 4-year-old on a 24-hour flight. So if anyone wants to send me tips on kids on a 24-hour flight, no, I swear to God, I'm terrified.
My ideas are going for you, Sophie. I'll message you after.
In terms of this story, I was really nervous in terms of coming across as a little bit arrogant, like about my style and whatnot. I don't own the Hills Hoist. There's a lot of amazing artists that paint at Hills Hoist. I love seeing other artists paint the Hills Hoist and the backyard and those kind of things. So yeah, I'd love to see more women artists in our beautiful Australian suburbia and backyards. So yeah, that was just another thing that I just wanted to say just in case.
So Sophie, thank you so much for joining us today. I have a final question, which is, if you were to look back at younger you when you started out as an artist, and if you were going to give yourself one piece of advice, what would it be?
Be you. Just keep being you. You will get there eventually. Keep painting what you're passionate about.
I love that so much. And that's really, really important because our art is us. That's really, really beautiful.
Like, paint what you love to paint. If I could give one tip that I'm really doing myself at the moment and I'm really enjoying, is going to the library and getting books and be inspired by the greats. And I currently have 10 library books about motifs. And one of the things that it helps with the paperback book, while I'm not great at reading, it gets you off your phone, because even if you start looking at something for inspiration on your phone, you get distracted with a million other things. So yeah, just get some books and enjoy that. And that's when you actually start the doing, rather than thinking that that's the next thing you're going to paint and then you just stay on your phone for another hour.
So true. Thank you so much for being here today. If our listeners would like to learn more about you and connect with you elsewhere, where is the best place for them to go?
Yeah, I'm on Instagram, Sophie_art. And my website is sophiecorks.com. And yeah, say hello, DM me. Thanks so much for having me, Roz. I think what you do is so wonderful. And I love listening to your podcast. Real honor to be on today. So thank you.
Thanks, Sophie. We'll catch you soon, okay? In a statement to the Sydney Morning Herald, Adairs said it had reviewed the concerns raised by the artist and had acted in line with its legal and ethical standards. Adairs states that Adairs has not infringed the copyright of any of the artists concerned. Further and importantly, Adairs is confident our approach reflects ethical design principles and that there's no reasonable basis for any suggestion that Adairs has not conducted itself ethically. If this episode has you dreaming about what's possible for your art in 2026, go and grab your 2026 Permission to Paint Planner. It's designed to help you map your year, stay focused, and make your creative goals actually happen. You'll find it at permissiontopaint.co/planner or head to the show notes and follow the links. That is it for this episode. I am so glad we could share this time together. I'm Rose Gervais, and I'll catch you in the next episode.